to bring out a faster pace. So they're trying to look for these fast pickoffs with the duel, with the track, build up a snowball early on. Their heroes do come online fairly. Biggest issue is still control. You've got the shuriken toss, I guess, to stun people from TPing out. But in terms of actually just pinning them down and fight, it's still not looking great. So there are issues with this draft. And I love the response. GEEK fam, they get the Lycan. There's nothing to pin him down except a duel. So you have to commit the duel on the Lycan, and sometimes that's not the best choice for the LC.
Oh, that is correct. You are going to have that natural detection in the Necro 3 book as well, up against that Bounty Hunter. It's going to be just nice to have that free detection available from that Lycan.
10 seconds remaining.
GEEK fam, they don't exactly have some like crazy amount of push after that Lycan. Everyone else is pretty kind of laid back and just interested in kind of fighting. And again, though, you can turn basically any of these heroes into like a pushing lineup because you do have an Ogre Magi there with Bloodlust. So I'm intrigued to see what GEEK fam want to finish this draft off with. They are still apparently lacking an off-lane hero right now. Yeah. So Cuckoo's hero is last.
Radiant
I wonder what they'll bring out for him. But they aren't lacking team fight. They don't really need any more team fight if they choose to get something more push orientated. You do things like the Nature's Prophet as well, by the way, right? Like for that off lane, if you really want to off lane for Cuckoo.
Yeah. Is there not a big fan of the NP myself. I think we've seen it. We've seen answers to that all too often. I think would have been nice if the Beastmaster wasn't banned out, but of course that's not there. I think if you really just wanted to tie this draft to be stable, could look at maybe the Underlord and we'll go. I don't think we've seen Cuckoo play that one too often, but you need something to just tie in this draft, something tanky in front, although the Kunkka is already tanky, but you want something that really benefits from the boat. Maybe we see a Doom again. I think the Doom from Cuckoo was highly effective. Just having that additional control can really turn these fights.
5 seconds remaining.
We're gonna use some more of that reserve time for this final pick. Troll Dazzle being removed from TNC, and that's actually one that could have worked as that off-lane Dazzle, but they'll give him the Centaur. Fair enough, so just more team fight on top of the team fight that was already there. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Stampede's going to help quite a lot. You've got all these global ultimates in the Stampede and the Mirana, Moonlight Shadow. It just seems very well rounded from GEEK, I want to say.
That it is. I think the biggest issue now, when you have to worry about the Centaur running away, is control. You still don't have that hold here from TNC, so a Stampede just ruins any initiation that you pull off with TNC's lineup. They just don't have the hold. They can just interrupt people with Shuriken Toss or pin one person down with the duel, but the egg can just run away from it. You don't have to commit for the egg in this case, and with the Kunkka, the Centaur is going to be hard to pick off. TNC closes out with the Ursa, and it's going to be kiteable here. There's no two ways about it. It's going to be kited around hard. It is pretty nice against the Centaur. I'll give it that. Doesn't help with her control issues. There's still a lot here TNC has to prove with this lineup. I think it's going to be much easier for GEEK fam to pull off their lineup. They just have a much more well-rounded one, TNC. If they can find those early pickoffs with a Bounty Hunter and LC, they can scale fast. They just have to play around that timing really well.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting game here for TNC. We'll see if they can at least draw out the series up against GEEK fam. So, number one, GEEK fam may easily find a 2-0 victory here over this side of TNC. Find out pretty darn soon. Another thing is with TNC's draft as well, they don't really have nice scaling at all. Like, neither side does, but the Ursa Quap, you know, once you get to that late game stage, you could make the argument they do okay. Sure, I mean, the Lycan doesn't do much better in the late game, but his objective is to not get to that point anyway.
Yeah.
He wants to finish ASAP.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for TNC in terms of scaling is, again, you mentioned the LC, duels can build up, although we've seen less priority in that, and Of course, the bounty kills do start to pile up, so that is one way to build up and kind of scale in terms of itemization. You should see gold pour in for the supports because of that bounty. That's one way TNC can kind of leverage that.
We'll get into it, John. Game number 2. He does this time
Prepare
around.
for battle.
That mid lane matchup may not be very fun for Armel up against that Kunkka.
No.
Could go either way, but the Kunkka Tidebringer is just such a great ability to have.
Yeah, we've seen it do a lot of work back to back. Of course, Queen of Pain at least has a range advantage, so shouldn't be all too bad in a Gavi with a question mark.
Gabby's the one that gave the tip over the Centaur.
Step lively now.
Cuckoo's asking about CSGO. No answer.
Oh man.
30 seconds to battle.
All right.
March! Oh, Aaron comes in. How dare they? And Cuckoo will play with his food. March. Oh!
No!
Cuckoo! You should have just hit March. Missing out on first blood because they were playing around.
Arrow? No.
No, way off. He was trying. Things coming out from Cuckoo as if the arrow missing was the problem. Classic.
Oh man.
Classic.
That's not nice. Bit of a shame. They invested in the sentry for that, so right outside the range of its obs too. See, that's a lack of efficiency there. Just 100 gold not paying off. Look at that.
Definitely not. It would have paid
like-
off.
If it was in rain, but it's not. That's agreed. Oh, and March gets a D ward too on the block camp.
Out of my way!
Cuckoo's going to be up against Gabby there on the Ursa. Gabby can't really harass out very much here on the Ursa at that level 1 stage because, well, Cuckoo's playing Centaur. He's a very, very tanky target to go for. Zephyr will be harassing you the whole time. And this is without Retaliate being up yet on Cuckoo. Once he has that up, it becomes even worse for the Ursa.
Yeah, it gets pretty tricky to maintain that lane. Zephyr does bring out another sentry, so they do know where March is going, and to be able to deal with that pesky bounty, it takes a few levels for this duo of TNC to really kick in.
Amel and Carl trying to establish their dominance in the mid lane.
Step lively.
Weird laning stage where you've got this Shadow Strike from Armel, but you've got this Tidebringer from Carl. It kind of could go either way depending on who really gets through the other's regen first. That turret not going to be on target.
It's
Well, trying to be as aggressive as possible here. In fact, that's going to be a lot of damage on Carl. Armel going to keep chasing a little bit more for it, but ultimately we'll go back to the creep wave.
It's a bit tricky for Carl when he does overextend like that, so gonna be nice for Armel. He was slightly behind in terms of last hits, and that little harassment play does give him an opportunity to bounce back in.
Good, top lane. In trouble. Gabby goes back in with the Earth Shock. Doesn't finish off the job yet, but March is trying. March will find the first blood onto Cuckoo. And that is very, very ironic.
That it is. Just because you cancel the right click, Cuckoo, that costs you. And March can be happy. He has this level 2, right? He can start stealing gold. This is when the bounty hunter gets really obnoxious to play against.
It does. Very, very annoying indeed. The brighter side, they aren't really allowing Gabby to have that great of a time in the safe lane so far. He is still quite afraid to move up towards that creep wave while Zephyr's around. He's going to try and go for the small camp pull and does get it off. So that wave will come back the way of the Ursa. March took a lot of harassment from those neutrals, still is. My goodness.
Dire's
For the
structures
team.
are fortified.
These neutrals scare me every time the couriers are running past as well, because sometimes they decide they want to kill your courier instead
Yeah.
of going after you.
Yeah, that can be a strange time and a bit of a waste of gold still. Bot lane.
Yeah, Wyman ends up going down there. Tim's on the Phoenix does manage to secure the kill. And, that's something we really never talked about either. The Tim's Phoenix is upon us. We're kind of sure March will just be back on the Phoenix as he has been pretty much the whole time. But they do clear on the BH instead. Speaking of March, he's going up against Zephyr right now. Janata strike there, arrow connects, he's underneath the sentry. March!
Ooh.
They use the same sentry, John. March didn't remember the sentry was there from the first blood attempt.
That does kind of pay for itself now. So Geek Fam has redeemed themselves. Zephyr can be perfectly happy with that. And
Scanning.
just a bit of a back and forth up top. You look down mid though. Whitemon is just sitting around with an invis.
Fire Blast gonna be there. Torrent will not connect. The Fire Blast stun does not last long enough. Now March gonna come in mid lane, going after Carl. Bloodlust will be there from Wyman. March is gonna chase him down. This should be a kill onto Carl. And yeah, it is. Armel will be the one to secure the kill. Wyman, he's just gonna have to leave the lane now. No point being here if you're the Ogre.
Geek Fam are slipping up with these early exchanges. TNC gonna be very happy. March on the bounty already being quite the nuisance. Does manage to steal the bounty as well away from Zephyr.
Well, he's the bounty hunter, John. That's what he does. Zephyr.
He needs to set a bounty in Zephyr.
Dire's bottom tower is
Zephyr
under
will
attack.
lead the way. Of course, March scouting out the stacks that are going on in this Radiant Triangle. You don't have the best wave clear on the side of TNC, but at the same time, you don't want to give this over to Geek Fam. Perhaps Armel could come over and clear those up later. The Queen of Pain. See if they get the chance to do so, though.
Yeah. The one lane that's really hurting for Geek Fam is Ravens. There's been a lot of pressure on him. He is still finding last hits, but you look at KP, he is so far ahead. The LC is going to have a very early start into that Vanguard.
Cuckoo giving the tips over to Gabby. Gabby does go down up to the top lane.
Yeah, I think Cuckoo really just wants to play CS after. I think that's it.
Hey, as long as they're not talking about that other game that just came out.
Of course. Nope,
Kinda
let's
like-
talk about that.
Kind of like CS, just worse.
Yeah, that's a very apt description, I think. And with that, Cuckoo at level 4 has more leeway to get his own pulls going. March is going to contest this, and this is the tricky bit, right? It's a BH. It's always going to spot this movement. Even if you do get this pull going, you're going to cop a lot of damage. You're going to be losing gold with every hit, and March is going to just continue. He's not going to stop. Even if it costs him his life, this is a lot of space being given towards Gabby.
We have a quick reconnection there coming out, so we'll go ahead again. March just going to keep chasing Cuckoo down, but he'll pull the creep wave away. March has to be a little bit careful how far he goes with this, because Zephyr is around the corner.
Radiant's middle
Eventually
tower
just
is
kind of
under
walk
attack.
back towards the mid lane. Gives the ping out to those stats. Zephyr now going to find out the hard way that the bounty hunter is still around.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And again, we're going to see this happen. They'll just fight like men. Zephyr will eventually leap away. Gabby trying to go onto Cuckoo. Cuckoo gonna go down. It looks like an Armel comes in, cleans up Zephyr. Cuckoo does fly. Gabby, give him the tip. There you go.
Oh man, TNC looking a lot more confident here in game number 2, finding the early kills, and you can see Armel starting to apply that pressure on Carl.
Sunray gonna burn him down quite a lot. It will force out 2 rotations here, but Geek Fam are still gonna lose that mid Kunka. Now Wyman gonna come in. March try and run away from this.
Zephyr.
Starfall arrow doesn't land. Wyman still taking a lot of damage here from that Armel Queen of Pain. Eventually, he will be able to walk away, but they don't kill anyone.
Yeah, it's a massive missed opportunity from GEEK fam, and that arrow missing cost him a kill onto March, and this pesky bounty hunter now. Oh, dust.
Zephyr, good game sense. Yeah, does get the dust off. Now arrow does connect March. Does go down.
Middle tower is under attack.
Zephyr just taking a wild guess that March was still behind it, or in front of him this time around. Now Gabby finds Cuckoo, gives it another tip.
Yeah, this top lane is not working out for GEEK fam. They've given Gabby a bit too much to play with. His last hits aren't as good as Raven's, but he's finding kills. So he's still perfectly fine with how this is turning out and is rushing the Battle Fury. So you're looking for this Ursa to start building up, to really kick into gear and farm, and to have a way to de-push these lanes as well.
March now going to scout out Raven on that Lycan, who's been just farming the jungle the whole time.
Radiant's bottom
Always nice
tower
to just
is
sit there
under
and soak
attack.
some XP if you are the +4. Because Raven should probably be aware that he is being followed right now.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Do tend to notice that huge XP drop when there's someone nearby. Yeah, he'll eventually go back to the triangle. Of course, those stacks are yet to be taken as well, so they're probably calling Raven over to just take care of those with Carl.
Dire are scanning.
In fact, it might be that time now for Raven to start meeting up top lane to go for the tier 1 tower. Looks like that's what Raven wants to do.
Yeah, he's got the Necronomicon 1, and that should be enough to allow him to really shove in. Actually, he's got Necro 2. He's got the 2 flying in. There you go. So a lot more damage coming out from our Lycan, and it should be a straightforward take on this top tier 1.
Yeah, they'll just take it for free, but the bottom tier 1 will also go down for TNC. It's a nice even trade.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's top tower has fallen.
Denied.
March gonna scout out Wyman behind that tier 1 tower.
Has been killed.
Tim's gonna start acting very aggressively in that mid lane, but Carl will go for an X into the torrent. All does connect, but Carl, he really wants that Invis rune, and now Zephyr does land an arrow, but KP is gonna be there to purge that stun off. Who else have they found? They did spot out March, I believe, on that bounty hunter, and he will die.
Dire's structures are fortified.
Yeah, that was a lot of commitment for March. I suppose it is worthwhile. They do manage to finally shove that bounty away. Raven is left in the jungle. His creeps are being cleared out, so just a bit more gold going the way of TNC. Overall, TNC still having a lot more room here. Right, they're starting to find a lot more farm on Gabby. He does have the first part of his Battle Fury flying in. You've got the level 6 all up, especially in March. So now you can go hunting around for those track kills and start to really escalate in terms of the gold gain from those kills.
The one thing that does bother me for TNC though is, like, I look at the Lycan, Raven, he's gonna have that Necro 3 book up in any second now. And that's when the hell begins up against the Lycan. You've got to be able to deal with him. Mel, top lane, they will find Zephyr. Raven does go into that wolf form now, trying to fight 1v3. He may need to back off though. That is what he does. Back towards that creep wave to finish off that Necro 3 book. TNC just finding
Radiant's
pickoff
bottom tower is
by
under
pickoff.
Visibility.
They look to go into that mid lane and try and force in that tier 1 tower. They should be able to do so fairly easily as well. Just doesn't seem like GEEK fam are ready to fight back.
No, they definitely aren't. Their team fight is not as great, TNC, as long as they land, say, a duel and an egg, you're gonna be fine. There's nothing equivalent from GEEK fam. All they can do is kind of stampede out. So it's a bit of a back and forth in terms of control there. I think TNC, I mean, even if they don't force fights, you know, you're buying time for Gabby. He's just building into the Battle Fury. He's not been punished for going for a bit more of a greedy build. And he's gonna have a way to shove back the army of Lycan once that Battle Fury's up. So there are certain things to be worried about, GEEK fam. We expected this kind of lineup to play more aggressive. You know, we were looking for perhaps Zephyr and Carl to start going for those X arrow plays, but hasn't really lined up, and they're just falling behind. A 4K lead for TNC. It's going to grow wider once more track kills come in.
Have we even seen one track kill yet?
No, yeah, we have once
one.
up top on Zephyr.
Right.
Yeah, he just turned 6 then though. And it's like literally the moment March hit 6, so they've been rather effective with it. Look to them to really just play around that. We still haven't seen a duel from KP. That's another thing as well. Just need that up and running. Does have the Vanguard up. Going for a defensive build. Doesn't want to cop too much damage coming out from Raven.
I think that's fine. I don't think you need the damage on the not the purpose of KP. They just need him to lock people down. As long as he stays alive, he's gonna be happy, I think. Apparently there's a blackout happening for Armel, but he is back. Carl now needs to wait. Cuckoo's very, very upset about all this. Still trying to get to CSGO. So many pauses going on, he just can't get there.
I know how those blackouts feel, but we are ready to go. So that's a quick one. And once more, slump up down mid. Oh, Whitemon.
Wow, man. Gonna throw out a stun on Gabby, but Gabby is gonna be there. They just wait for the dual damage.
Tower is under attack.
Nice and patient from TNC, and it's into that mid T1 tower. Carl gonna be there with the X, throws out the boat as well, just to clear the creep wave.
Ha! Welcome back.
You don't want to lose that jungle this early on, because they do have a Lycan after all. He needs that jungle to farm. Arrow, not gonna land.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures.
TNC aren't going to give up on this though, they're still going. Ultimately, GEEK fam looks like they're not going to really be able to defend this. Carl will continue to try and just lag this this push out.
Step lively now. Your arrow is on.
Meanwhile, top lane, there's a bit of a chase going on right now for March. Hoofstop will land with an arrow out from Zephyr, and that will mean March is going to die. And now mid lane, they jump in once again. Gabby trying to go on Whiteman, but there will be a stampede out. KP does have Jewel up again, and they will find the T1 tower.
And just a really quick take. Again, GEEK fam is a bit too fragmented to fight in. Still, Raven up top should apply some pressure onto this tier 2, but the TPs are out.
Doing a lot of damage to that T2 tower. The question is, can they kill? Ooh. Oh, arrow. Perfect from Zephyr, but it's purged off again by KP. Now Wolf form is out. KP going to take a substantial amount of damage from those units. Not too careful. So go on to Zephyr first. He's the easiest target. Jewel will be there, but Hoofstop out from Cuckoo eventually does get there. Now just the control coming out. Egg is in the middle of all this. GEEK fam want to back out. And it looks like Cuckoo is probably going to die. Armel also finding Zephyr on the Marana.
And TNC again, they're just finding every single thing in these trades. GEEK fam are not able to pin anyone down or even just get the damage out. Raven's just forced to run around. The areas they've been fighting in have been awkward, and TNC has been maximizing that. They get to go into the Roche Pit. They don't have any stampedes to worry about. There's nothing really spotting this one out, so it's going to be a pretty free take here for TNC.
Quick, easy Roshan. You're taking that away from the Lycan as well. Just denying that Roshan off that GEEK fam would have definitely wanted to try and go for. Back to the drawing board here for this Radiant side. They're just going to try and catch up in this farming game a bit. Raven going to start working on towards that AC, but just needs more towers. Seeing Moonlight Shadow come out from GEEK fam now.
Dire are scanning.
KP just going to run up to the Radiant Triangle.
Is under attack.
Trying to take that bounty room, but Cuckoo is waiting with a hoof stomp. Does get the bounty for himself and wants to run out of there as KP is now chasing for a duel attempt. Range. And he does commit. Armel there with the double damage as well. Do they have enough damage? They definitely do.
Yeah, they're just starting to find these kills. It's starting to rack up. They did lose Tim's and the Phoenix, but I'm sure they don't mind that too much. Still, Raven gonna use the space to just shove that tier 2 bot a bit, but forces the fort out, so not gonna really get too much done there.
Top tier 1 tower though is gonna go down. Gabby already up with the battle fury. Going for that Bastion next. Farm on Gabby is going to get a lot more concerning as time goes on. Once you have that Abyssal Blade up, suddenly this Lycan really isn't as scary. In all fairness, Raven hasn't been that scary thus far. Like, he's only been involved in 1 assist game.
Yeah, he's been trying to focus on those objectives. It's just, again, we're at 16 minutes in. It's still pretty fresh map, although Tim's...
Just Icarus dives away in time, now turns around as he's got some TPs in. They stampede and get everyone out, but March will scout out Raven. Meanwhile, mid lane, Armel has a boat coming up towards him. Raven is going to be there as well, but Egg has been up. It's not going to be good enough. They are going to lose Armel, and they will also lose Tim's with the Egg. TNC, they want to try and defend this T1 mid tower, and it looks like GEEK Fam will back off anyway.
Yeah, it's a very safe play from GEEK Fam after finding those pickoffs, and this is how they can really run this draft. It's the hit and run with a Stampede because of the lack of control TNC has. This is how they have to play. Just force out lane, force the TPs, find the isolated target, clean them up, and pull back. They can constantly do this because of how TNC drafted. So they just need to play a little bit more of catch-up. You look at Raven, of course, with the Hyperstone up and the Buckler. There's a couple of parts left for the AC, so once that's up and running, he's going to be a lot more durable in the front lines. You look at Carl as well, going into the Heaven's Halberd, so just lacking about 200 gold until that's up and running, and that disarm is really going to mess up Gabby, or even KP. It's just not going to be fun to have these physical heroes get disarmed in the middle of a fight.
That it won't be. The GEEK Fam are back into that mid lane. Cuckoo with the Moonlight Shadow just going to run straight into the tower.
Radiant's bottom tower.
TNC aren't going to let it go. KP jumps in, but cops the stun straight away. He doesn't have mana for a duel anyway. Now he does. Top lane is also being forced in right now by the Lycan units. They've got to make a decision. Do they defend their tier 1 mid or their tier 2 top tower?
Dire's top tower.
Can't do both at once.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
Tim's
attack.
is going to be there on the Phoenix, but Arrow is flying out and will not connect. Now the Stampede mid lane, they have gone. There is a duel onto Cuckoo. Sonic Wave as well, but it will not be enough. They continue chasing. Cuckoo moves up, but he is going to die to KP. While that was happening though, you did lose that tier 2 top tower.
Yeah, it's a nice little take for GEEK Fam. I think they'll take that trade. They're happy enough to have TNC forced to use those spells and give the space to Raven. It's all about him finding these objectives because GEEK Fam, they're not in a position to really force these fights, although Sepher...
Gonna try and chase him down. KP doesn't have duel for another 13 seconds. Be enough of that. You've still got Gabby farming just fine on that Ursa. Looks like he is going to try and opt to go for the BKB first. It seems like that Ogre and the Mirana, just the stuns are starting to become a real problem. His Aegis does also expire, so he doesn't really get to use it.
Dire's middle tower is under
That
attack.
Aegis was really just a denial off GEEK Fam anyway. I don't think he cared about really using it this time around.
Yeah, I think they really just wanted that gold injection as well. And no, they're not looking to fight too much. Well, do you see a clump up top, GEEK Fam?
The outpost will be taken by Cuckoo. Of course, the TNC side have the other outpost.
Gold for my chest.
Kind of surprised TNC's
Middle tower is under
not
attack.
as willing to fight right now, considering they do have that bounty hunter. In fact, speaking of, March is going to get caught out. But I guess you are playing a bit of a time game here with the Lycan. So there's no real need to make advantage of that trap if you don't need to.
Yeah, there is a timer on the draft of Geek Fam. I think TNC would, how they itemized on Gabby, are set to try to outscale. You know, the Battle Fury is just going to be able to let the Ursa really kick it up, although KP...
It's going to be chased down, but there was no wolf form popped initially. Now the Stampede will be there. KP's still running away, however. They do get the X off. Now the boat to fly in. He does pop Crimson Guard, but he is surrounded. They just swarmed the man.
It's a really easy kill for them. Without the Stampede, though, Geek Fam's going to be a bit vulnerable, and that did give enough time for Gabby to finish the BKB. So BKB is up and running on her Ursa. Control for this guy is going to be, well, basically non-existent. Gabby should have free reign if he so chooses to join these fights, and he's already pretty close to his Basher as well.
But up pretty soon. Good. Could have been spotted there by Gabby, but of course he won't bother with the Centaur. The Geek Fam are going to try for that mid-tier 1 again. This time around they should get it, but... Oh, Arrow flying into KB with the torrent. Not going to be there to help out from Tims, but they just blow him up again. Geek Fam are for real this time. They are getting that tier 1, but first, get Tims on the Phoenix. They will get a double kill on Raven. Now, not only a tier 1, but maybe a tier 2 tower if you really want it, if you are Geek Fam, but... They're just going to maintain a dire jungle control again.
Yep, they're just farming up, building up. TNC, they are losing potency from this draft by not finding track kills, by not finding dual kills, and even though you're farming up in Gabby, I don't know if it's going to be enough with how much ground you've lost.
Arrow connects, both flying in as well. TNC going to lose a third hero now. All in the mid lane. Just be so careful about giving kills away like that, because this Lycan draft can really just finish the game so quick if you make one little mistake.
Yeah, it's just a consistent game from Geek Fam. Like, they were bleeding out in earlier kills, but TNC pulls back. They don't want to force fights anymore, and their itemization has been super slow here on TNC, besides Gabby. If you look at Tims, he's held out in every single piece. He's actually just going for the Radiance Rush in Phoenix, which, you know, it can work out. It's not the most common first pick on a pos 4 Phoenix nowadays, but I suppose when you have it, you have it.
It's definitely one I haven't seen on a pos 4 Phoenix. Yeah, there's a Sacred Relic, Tims. Makes enough sense up against the Lycan, all his units, just being able to at least burn them down. Top of the magic damage you already have. TNC now finally decided they are going to smoke up. Roshan is up at the moment as well, so they can claim a Roshan if they win this team fight. Yules is going to be there from Zephyr, he will leap away. Still, he's out of leaps now. Moonlight Shadow Pop, but he was dusted, and now the Sonic Wave. Mel will secure the kill for his team. TNC, do you want to go Roshan? Looks like the answer is no for now. They're just going to keep farming up on Gabby.
Not the biggest loss in the world for Geek Fam. I think they're happy enough to have forced out the Sonic Wave from our meld. So there's a window there where Geek Fam doesn't have to worry about that burst damage. They can choose to try to hunt themselves, but they'll just go back to farming as well. Raven is still saving up for his BKB. It's just about 800 gold away. He just wants that to be able to run around in front, pretty much uncontrollable. Whereas Gabby does have the Basher flying in, is just saving for the Abyssal. So there's going to be a moment where our Ursa is going to be really hard to deal with the Abyssal.
That he will. Smoke up from Geek Fam. Basher is up as the smoke is coming in. Warform, they have the vision. Gabby pops the... well, he's in trouble actually. He's pop and rage. Will be controlled. Now the press the attack comes out. He does pop the BKB. KP gonna back off for a little bit, and now with those overwhelming odds, may turn around, but he's going to cop a fair bit of damage here from GEEK Fam. They are willing to fight. KP about to drop, but the egg is now out from Tim's. Cuckoo falling low. Zephyr falls even lower. Wyman also goes down. Armel just cleaning him up. Raven now going to go for a TP attempt. Do they have the damage? No. He will indeed get out, but Carl, he'll be fine. He does TP. Eventually does decide he'll just walk. The TNC getting a 3-0 in that last team fight can now go once again to that road shot.
Yeah, the durability from KP is a bit of an issue. They couldn't finish off him or Gabby, and that just cost them in the end. Their focus was split. That delays the game long enough that Tim's actually does finish that Radiance. So the presence of her Phoenix shoots up. The egg just does a lot more damage with the Phoenix inside it. And Aegis and Cheese do go the way of TNC.
GEEK Fam now looking towards mid. They'll see KP and Gabby. TNC, they'd happily fight again, it seems.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
GEEK Fam is starting to really fall behind now. 8k net worth for TNC. So Moonlight Shadow up.
They really need to find that farm on Raven. He's fallen behind a bit too much. That BKB is going to be pivotal for him to stand there and fight. The timings have been iffy too. Like, his wolf form just fades out too fast when they're going for these fights, and when he's out of it, it's really easy to handle him. So GEEK Fam needs to start playing around a lot tighter around Raven. They do have the disarm onto Cuckoo, so that's always nice to have. 2 disarms up and running on GEEK Fam. That can put a dent into what TNC's lineup wants to do.
Dire's bottom tower.
Well, push the bot tier 2, and it looks like GEEK Fam are going to try and force them back on the side of TNC by going for a tier 3 tower. You already see Tim's. He is back on the Phoenix. This is perhaps why he got the Radiance in the first place, just to... He would understand he's the one on D-push duty. Definitely going to help, and now... See?
Radiant's top tower is under
Whiteman
attack.
could be in big trouble. Does get trapped up. KP does show himself, pops the Crimson and starts going forward onto Whiteman. No, not quite yet. Mel is there. And they are very afraid that someone's behind this Ogre, but not really the case. Basically just him. Whiteman does end up giving a dual victory away to KP.
Double damage.
Cuckoo was there, of course, but he was just trying to hide. And well, now the pings come out towards Cuckoo, but I think they're going mid instead. Carl is out of there as well, however.
And TNC really are starting to take over. The snowball effect that they've been getting from March has been kicking in, and that's just a level 1 track. We haven't seen March hit that 12 mark. Is going to hit it soon, so more gold to come out from our bounty hunter, and that just means more items to fly in for our supports, which is really causing a lot of issues for GEEK Fam. They're just severely behind on a lot of their other heroes. It's really all on Raven right now, and it doesn't feel like it's been enough.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Waiting, they're not initiating onto that Phoenix yet.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Cuckoo's still forcing out that bot wave, and GEEK Fam's gonna take the outpost back. Gabby trying to take down that T2 mid, but the backdoor protection will stop him from doing that. Now GEEK Fam again. Mirror on the side of TNC, just be on the opposite side of the map. Bot lane.
Radiant are scanning.
This has given a lot of time for Gabby. He does have the full Abyssal up now. Cuckoo jumps in, misses the stun on Marsh. They have the purge there, so Marsh will die. Now the Stampede, they want to get away from this, but Jewel is going to be there. They caught out the Lycan. That's the big one that they wanted. Raven will die. Now with that Abyssal, you have so much lockdown to really just ensure that this Lycan doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's getting tricky for GEEK Fam. Again, their strategy is to find a pick off and pull back with a Stampede. with that Bissell and the blink on KP, gets a lot harder to pull that off. And they're being punished severely for lagging behind this game. They just have not taken the map control you expect a Lycan draft to do. And everyone's just falling behind. Carl on the Kunkka has not progressed past that Halberd and Solar Crust. Still saving up for the BKB. Once that's up, he's going to have a bit more control. I think you do worry about just how much damage TNC is doing now physically. They're just able to burst down.
Duel to Wyman, going to be another victory there for KP. Now going to have a bit of a pause coming out. Looks like TNC are having some issues. I don't know if GEEK fam's gone past their timing now. Like, they're just not winning any kind of engagement they get into with TNC. So, Lycan can still shred people, but not if the full team is there.
No, it's definitely not that kind of Lycan game here. Raven's not that far ahead to get that done, so he needs to find isolated targets. His team needs to help him out if it's going to be a bigger engagement, and they really just need to reel it back in the map. You know, they've got the disarms. They've got a way to manage the LC and the Ursa. They're just not able to be up there all together. They're being punished for that. So, GEEK fam, they've got to start clumping up, maybe try hunting. That's what TNC's really been doing. Hunt for one, stampede out. Rinse and repeat, force out any sort of push on lanes. Just kind of try to stall it that way, and try to bounce back that way.
You have the go-ahead, we'll get back into it. Shiva's guard now up on Armel as well. So just so much wave clear coming out now from TNC. Yeah, he does secure that tier 2 mid. Yeah, bot lane, Tims may get caught out here. Moonlight Shadow will be there. Raven's gonna close the gap. Move stop out, and the Phoenix is gonna die. Nice easy pick off there for the side of GEEK fam. But Tims is just doing Tims thing. He's just pushing out the bot wave. You almost expect to die at that moment.
Yeah, it's actually, he's actually really farmed this Phoenix thanks to that Philosopher's Stone. He has his Aeon disc up on top of the Radiance, which we didn't notice, so durability gives him the flexibility to just go straight into the egg from jumping in, and gives him enough leeway to get that done for his team, so that's something GEEK fam has to be really aware of as well once it's off cooldown.
GEEK fam is smoked up. March could break the smoke if they get close enough, but it looks like they have spotted out KP, so they'll rush on towards that LC, but now Gabby will jump straight onto that Ogre. White will die, both supply in. KP does go down to the LC, but can they control the Fuzzy Wuzzy Bear? Cuckoo is still in trouble. March does die on the bounty. Cuckoo will go down on the Centaur, and now Armel going after Carl. He'll be forced to BKB up and just TP away. KB had Jewel but couldn't get it off in time.
Radiant's top tower is
Bit of a shame.
Yeah, it would have been a nice pickup still. TNC does win out in that trade. They only give away March really for two very solid picks. They force out BKB usages. Now Raven doesn't have the shapeshift, so there's a huge opening for them to just get a safe push out.
They're gonna go now. Pair kit is gonna be up there for the side of GEEK fam, so they can definitely delay things in high ground push. They're giving us the Roche time.
You don't have the sign.
Gabby. We go back to that tier 3 tower. He's losing a lot of HP, but he does have the cheese. Looks like that'll be it. They're just gonna wait out the repair kit. Arrow.
Yeah,
Not gonna land.
that repair kit makes it really obnoxious, along with a bloodlust. So the tower just kind of machine guns you down while barely taking any damage. Stall mechanic now for GEEK fam. And you do see Raven, he shoved in that bot lane pretty hard. So they're still finding something on the map. It's not quite amazing, but it's there. It's slowly being built up. You look at Raven, he's saving up for the MKB, and another smoke from GEEK fam.
Will it lead to anything though? TNC are remaining very grouped up. No, they won't find anything from that smoke.
Yeah, it's
Smoke up now from TNC. Find first though, it looks like they Moonlight Shadow out from GEEK fam now. They know something's up. They run straight into each other. Gabby, who do you want to jump first? He is going to go onto Carl. They want the conquer, but a double turret into a double burn, it looks like. Still, they will lose KP straight away. Gabby still has not found a target. He's being kited around right now. Mel forced to blink out of there. Raven on top of March. They will kill off the bounty. Now Gabby is surrounded, but they finally use the egg. But Gabby, he just dies. Now the Sonic Wave trying to protect the egg. It won't be good enough. It's going to be a full team wipe out for GEEK fam.
Ooh, that's the engagement we were looking for from GEEK fam. It all lines up. They got the control, they got the split. TNC just kind of forced the stream out one by one, and they managed to completely ignore Gabby. That's all they needed to clean up the rest of the heroes, clean up, and then go for Gabby afterwards. Huge opening now for GEEK fam. They can get a very fast push going. It's still a Lycan you're playing up against. There are buybacks on TNC, but without the Phoenix Egg, you're losing a lot of presence in those team fights.
That was not good news for TNC at all. They lost so much net worth. That graph has not updated yet, but they went all the way down to the middle line. It is basically even now.
Dire's bottom tower.
Oh yeah.
GEEK fam, they're going to find as many objectives right now as they can.
Dire's
Now they're going to go through the bot lane. Raven, of course, can take them very, very quick, so perhaps buybacks are necessary here from TNC. They will fortify for now, but Raven and Cuckoo will stand their ground. They aren't going to be able to find one Rax, because TNC are not buying back.
Dire's bottom barracks are under attack. Dire's bottom barracks has fallen.
The GEEK fam aren't done. They want to go for the second Rax, and they'll go to the mid tower now.
Yeah, they just managed to clear out that tier 2, and again, TNC, even if they bought back, it's just really risky without Tim's ult still. The respawns being this low does mean GEEK fam is just going to back off. They know the Roche is up. They could just go for that safer objective.
Sure they will. GEEK fam hasn't managed to actually take a Roche yet. It's always been TNC.
Shadows, take us.
Immediate smoke from TNC. I believe they're assuming the Roshan is happening. Smoke going to be broken on Cuckoo. Cuckoo will destroy the sentry. No, he won't get time for it. Mel jumps in with the blink. Arrow. Not going to land. Now a counter smoke. Back towards TNC, but they'll take the high ground of the dive. Cuckoo gonna just loop around through the mid lane, trying to find a way into that dire jungle. See Tim's courier, I believe, and that might give it away a little bit. Want a high priority target first. Someone like Armel would be great. The Roshan has begun, but only just barely. They'll get started. Gabby jumps in. He does go onto Cuckoo. Now jumping in onto the Ogre. Wyman surviving a great Sonic Wave though, Armel. He found so many heroes in that. And now the egg drops. KP gets a duel off on the Kunka. Carl is locked in. He's going to get stunned up as well and should just be dead here. But look at Raven. Raven's doing what's important, John. He's taking objectives.
Ooh. Yeah, it's not quite the fight GEEK fam wanted, but at least they find a tier 3 mid. Still, the Roshan will go the way of TNC. There's a Scotty up in Gabby. And the third Rosh of the game does mean it does have a refresh shard here. for them to play with. So a lot of options available for TNC following this rush. No real contention, although Courier is going to try to sneak, but a bit too early there from Zephyr.
Always have to try with the Courier. So annoying for Gabby, and Gabby,
Radiant's
I believe that's absolutely everything. Quick fingers from Gabby.
Unfortunately, Zephyr popped his shield a bit too early, so not much there. It's been so long that Tims has held on to the stone that he has the eggs as well. The egg is just going to be really hard to deal with now from TNC. They've been forced to split their attention whenever their engagements are not under their full control. So now, if they just ignore Tims, that egg is just going to do a lot of work in the back.
Raven's not even going to join his team for this bot team fight, I don't think, or this top team fight. He's still trying to force the bot wave in. Another repair kit coming out. They'd love to get through that, but they just don't have the damage. So it's out of the top lane. Back to the base for the Dire. Raven will get caught out here. Tims will scout him out. Will form there with the Moonlight Shadow. He's just going to make a run for it through the tree line. Finds a TP. He's juking out nobody. We'll TP out eventually.
Just a bit of time wasted from GEEK fam. Raven's not going to be able to use that shapeshift for anything meaningful. And TNC again just taking their time. They've got a good advantage back up. They're finding some key items flying in. Their team fight is starting to look a bit scary. And GEEK fam, they need to find the engagements they were taking earlier. They need to be able to isolate Gabby, burst down KP, and force Tims to go into the ult and then burn that egg down.
They're going to try into that mid lane. There is only one repair kit charge left on Whiteman. Gabby, not going to be afraid to take a bit of damage here. KP will be there to back him up just in case. TNC still not finding a way onto the high ground. Now the top wave being pushed in by Kuku. Raven is there right behind him. Raven is still basically juggling the net worth board there with the Ursa. Both still fighting over who has the most net worth.
Yeah, it's just that as the game goes on, Raven's influence in the game does feel like it drops. He gets a bit too reliant. Have shapeshift up, and the uptime isn't the most amazing. So there's an opening there, although.
Armel was caught out for a second, but he's too tanky.
You don't have the sand.
Armel has the Shiver's Guard and the AC up. Plenty of armor there for this Queen of Pain. Not to mention the Witless Shaco.
Just makes it so hard to burn through Armel. Really solid build from him. Understanding that most of that damage coming out is going to be physical. Just lasting a lot longer than you'd want. You really need Raven around to help out with that one, but he's just constantly going to go for the split. Does TP out, drops his Necronomicon, creeps first. Try to apply some pressure there.
Yeah, it's all you can do. Just keep throwing bodies at TNC, just delay the game out until maybe you can drag it out long enough that one of the neutral items is going to be very nice. Maybe you find that opening you're looking for. They did wipe TNC about 10 minutes ago, so it's definitely possible.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Still just trying to find a way into that high ground.
They're taking away the time under Aegis though. There's about half a minute left until that expires on Gabby. So if they want to use that Aegis, it's probably going to be time fairly soon. I'd say at this point, you know, just save up the money. Gabby's saving up for the MKB. Maybe just wait that one out. Looks like you're not really expecting too much more. Maybe 4 staff on March, but everyone else is pretty much getting slotted up here on TNC's side. Geek Fam, they've got room to grow, although there's only so much you can ask for from their supports. Zephyr is going for a Maelstrom into Mjolnir, just trying to dish the damage out, although they're starting to clump up together.
Could be in trouble. No, he blinks out of there. Now Raven, that's the one you want to catch, but he does run out as well. A game of cat and mouse between these two teams. Raven, no, he's going to turn around back onto KP. Sonic Wave is there from Armel. KP trying to look for a duel here onto Raven. They may catch Whiteman. The duel, no, he won't get it off in time.
Oh man, the durability here from TNC is really just starting to be a bit too much. Raven can't eat through any of them. And that was KP with the craggy coat. It's really just too much on every single one of these heroes. They're starting to be ridiculously tanky. And that does give us a bit of a stalemate. Like, Geek Fam are unable to find the kills and not really able to pierce into the high ground. Same thing goes for TNC. They're just stuck chasing around Geek Fam and trying to find an opening.
Well, now Carl's got a hard up on Tonka. Top lane, looks like they do find Cuckoo. The duel will lock him in at least for now, and with that Ursa, they will have plenty of damage. A nice Hoostomp comes out. Cuckoo gonna try and run away. Does pop the Stampede and does lose the gem in his death. Tim will take that back home. This Phoenix now has a blink dagger coming up for some reason.
Why not? The added mobility is always nice. Yeah, this helps you reposition a bit more, and you know, it's pivotal that you get the egg in a good part. Sometimes you don't dive well, sometimes you don't want to commit the dive, so it gives you more options there. Still, the siege begins for TNC.
And they got one more repair kit to go through though, I believe. There it is. Off you go. They're still going to try to go through that repair kit again. Just so difficult with that bloodlust.
You don't have the side.
They're just never going to do it. They're, like, after this repair kit's done, yeah, okay, we can go now, you know? But beforehand, it's just not happening.
It would be really nice if Whitemon had level 20 for perhaps that Bloodlust talent, just to help in the defense, but...
Oh, fantastic.
Pain without
you know, he's just halfway through.
You probably would go for that this game, though, right? Like, the 30 strength is amazing, but...
There's no point. Like, Whitemon lives and nothing really changes if Whitemon lives or doesn't.
Yeah.
He's, really faded out. It's all about Bloodlust now. That's the one thing, right? When you have the support Ogre, you really are just a Bloodlust machine towards that late game, and that is the point in game we're at. He's just there to buff up Raven, buff up Carl, buff up even Sepper, because he's gonna go for red clicks. And that has been enough for the most part. TNC is just not able to find that opening, although Geek Fam, they're smoking up. Looks like they just want to capture an outpost.
Yep. Take the outpost back, go push out the bot wave. We've seen this one before. No outpost. Down towards Tim's. Or Port Pot. Stampede as well. Poor old Tims has no clue what's going on, but he has an Aeon Disc. He will get used up. Arrow is there and he should die.
Oof.
Now, Geek Fam, do they make something happen in this bot lane, or do they just back off again?
They've got to make something happen. There is a buyback up on Tim's. He just has barely enough gold to kind of take it. But doesn't look like there's any opening. It's the bot lane. They already took the racks there. They could try to go for mid from there. I suppose, I mean, that's just the creeps from Raven. He's not committing.
Gabby, gonna be there to defend this. Geek Fam have backed off again. Just a rinse and repeat from the side of Geek Fam. I mean, I guess they could drag this out to the tier 5 items. Maybe that'll make all the difference.
That would. It's just, we are still 12 minutes away. They do spot out the Roche. Geek fam, they're actually gonna go for it.
Take us.
Kind of have to. This road could just decide who wins the game. There is an Ags upgrade as well as a refresher shot on there as well. Of course, TNC are well aware this is happening, so they're going to dive in, but Carl will throw a boat out straight away onto KP. So many pixels flying across the screen, and KP is going to die. Now, the buyback is immediate, but they have put out another in the form of March. Now the Ursa going to be in trouble. Gabby, he whoop up his own BKB, going after Carl, but he is so tanky on that Kunka. Gabby can't do with him right.
Tims is coming in, doesn't get the egg off. Aeon Disc does pop, he's being controlled up. Yule's up in the air, they're jumping in, they jump onto Whitemon, Abyssal's up, disarms there. Duel onto Carl, and he's taken out. 2 heroes down from Geek Fam and TNC. That should allow them to go into the Baroche. That's how it is.
Sean has fallen to the dire.
Oh, well, they do have to go back to deep push on the tier 4s, but as you mentioned, every single thing dropping there from the Roche. Wonder who they give the Ags to. They just give the Ags to Gabby. So you do have that upgraded, and Rage, it becomes really hard to pin Gabby down. That's been something Geek Fam's been really good at, but having that Ags upgrade, it just becomes that much more difficult. Another thing as well is KP. Oh.
Worthy tribute.
Oh man. Armel. Ooh. Yeah, just barely, but now the push can start to begin, although, whoa.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified.
Oh, there's that machine gun coming out.
Welcome back.
Oh, no. Oh!
Not so safe harbor, eh?
Regeneration.
Ooh, that's a dieback for KP. They went through the ages as well. This is going to be a bit of an opening for Geek Fam. They're playing at a 20k deficit, but they're holding on to their racks. TNC just not being able to hit the objectives, and Carl, with that Ghost Fleet, that really stemmed the tide from TNC. They could not commit. They were getting controlled up. Their supports were stuck at the back. And this is a really big opening for Geek Fam if they can really start pushing in. It doesn't look like they might want to commit too hard.
Step lively now. Your admiral is on board.
Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
Oh no. It's gonna be really difficult for GEEK fam to stem that push. They do have Raven's creeps pushing down bot, but Tim's is there to try to correct that. So the defense last time really relied on Carl with the ghost ship fleet. This time without him, it's gonna be so difficult to try to stem that tide. At least you still have Raven up and running, and you have the machine gun from Whitemon, so there is that. Oh.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Radiant's middle barracks has fallen.
A loss so small, the world will hardly notice.
That's how it is. And, tricky defense, 1 minute left. Forcing the tier 4s is the smart play because that's an all-in, but if GEEK fam turns around, TNC will be stuck in an awkward spot because GEEK fam, they can push really fast. You have to remember Raven can still rip right through, and looks like we'll find out how this ends up. Oh no.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's ancient is under attack.
Yeah, it's back and forth there, but TNC manages to draw out the series, and it's fantastic showing from both sides. A lot of back and forth. In the end, TNC, they do manage to close it out, and I guess Gabby gets to play some CSGO now.